Welcome to Slice Property Made Possible. This season we meet with experts and everyday people to discuss their property journeys so you can learn from their mistakes. Head to today's episode notes to get access to our free home buyers software and to get an estimate of what you could borrow today. Welcome back to another episode of Slice Your Property podcast. Today we are joined by Edna Swart, founder of ed&i. Hey Edna.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. It sounds like we've got a bit of a straightforward story. We're just sort of saying off camera before, and that you've obviously had a bit of banking experience, which helped you out with your first property purchase. But yeah, what is it that you can tell us about that experience?
Yeah, I mean, my journey was quite straightforward because obviously, I used to write loans, residential. So the process was no surprise or any, hurdles as such where it's shocked, like you have to do all this stuff. It was all pretty straightforward too. And the fact that our house was that we wanted was like a new build. It was like 2 years old. It was a show home. There was a lot of things that we didn't have to do, like, a building report and inspection and all that kind of stuff that comes with the older homes. So our process really was straightforward. The only thing that was different was there was already an offer in on the home and we were the second offer, and they had to a certain time and date to meet the requirements before it got given to us on our offer. So that was the only antsy moment of did we get it? Did we not get it? It was a backup offer accepted, but then it wouldn't be accepted until that date, if that makes sense.
Yes. Oh, okay. So they basically said, they'll accept it provided this other offer falls through, essentially.
Yes. And they had to a certain date, and I believe they had to, it was bridging finance, or they had to sell their home, prior, and they couldn't meet it within those certain times. And then at 5 o'clock that Friday, it automatically became ours, and we had our agent on the phone, and he was getting that confirmation because we're standing there is it happening? Did we get it? And being my first home, it was quite a big deal in the sense. It was my husband's second home, so for him it was but it was like a family home, so it was
Yeah. And how did you kind of make the decision to do that? Because I guess some people, and it's normal to just go, oh, well, there's already an offer there, so we won't bother, you have to go through the energy of putting it in, knowing that potentially it's not going to be successful. What was that kind of mindset around?
Well, it came down to what the offer was and the time frame. So we knew that they had a big requirement in the sense of they had to sell their home, right? And we all know how long it can take to sell a home. It's not something that just happens overnight. So I kind of felt like there's a possibility or a higher chance of us getting this, unless a miracle happened and they did sell it, then that's cool. But it was just, I felt like we had a good chance. So I took it. But I learned through the process of buying my first home, husband's second, I fell into the trap of getting emotionally attached to houses. I got emotionally attached to a previous house I really wanted. And my father-in-law and husband was like, I know you love the house, but X, Y, and Z is not good. So, but I was devastated. And so I had to quickly get my head out of that, going into these other offers or other houses where it's okay, if you don't get it, it's a reason. There's always something else, don't get attached to this. So it was a chance we took. It was a show home. There were a lot of people interested in this house. And so it was a big deal when we did end up getting it.
I guess there's two learnings that I'm really hearing out of that. One being, it is worth putting in a backup offer. Because some people do get discouraged. They just go, the whole journey is exhausting for a lot of people. So you just sort of, if it feels like it's not going to happen, then it's actually pretty hard to put yourself out there and make an offer and do it. But then equally, a bit of healthy detachment. I'm the same. It's so hard though when you're buying something to live in, which obviously this is your family home. It's hard to remove
a family home. Investment's so different. There really is an emotional attachment there. But family home, you're always willing to put a little bit more at risk, willing to pay a little bit more than what you probably should, and take a little bit more risk in putting that offer in there. So, I'm glad we did. So
it all worked out.
I actually recently had put another offer in on another house as a new family home because I just feel like we've outgrown this house now already. So I've been willing to like sort of put my feelers out there. And being at buyer's market, I was like, why not? Let's go out.
Yeah.
And I went to go see the house. It's stunning on a golf course overlooking. Like, it was really,
Oh.
really beautiful. It was like, this is sort of like, you know, your 10-year long-term house. And I went in and I put an offer in. But I was stirred. Like, I felt like I learnt from this house. I was like, I'm not emotionally attached. This is what I'm willing to pay for it. Take it or leave it. Like, I'm the vendor. Like, who are you to be
Yeah.
like, so firm, eh? But I had to put a limit on there because I didn't want to overbuy, because I know that we did that with our house. So I was like, no, like, you got to be really strict on this. You never know. They could come back and be like, nobody else put an offer in. We're willing to take it or negotiate a little bit. We didn't get it because they wanted a ridiculous amount for this
Yeah.
house. That I just was like, it doesn't matter how much I love it. There's no way that's worth that. So I was like,
Yeah.
I gave you a fair price. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's what I kind of learned from my previous offers.
Transgressions, yeah. I think it's different investing versus, buying to live,
Yeah.
but it is that first purchase is always very emotional.
Well, it's also like really
Yeah.
confronting. I feel like
Yeah.
there's emotional moment, like when you buy your first home. Firstly, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm in this, I'm going to put my offer in. This is so exciting. Like, this is everything I've always wanted. And then all of a sudden it gets accepted. And then your heart sinks in your body, because you're like, oh dear Lord, my mortgage is going to be X, Y, and Z. And now I actually have to like pay for this. So it's like the first excitement. And then it's like, oh my God, did I do the right thing? Oh my, like, how am I going to
Yeah.
like, it's like, yeah, it's like this moment of like where you freak out and you're like, did I do this too early? Has the bank maybe thought like I could afford it and maybe I can't afford it because I don't think I can afford it? And it's like all this doubt. And then you just get in there and you just sort of live it. And then, yeah.
You just have to ride the wave, right? But it is
Yeah.
that reality sets in. And I think one of the challenges that comes through on a lot of these episodes actually is that, yeah, the bank will assess that you can pay that, but they know that you're going to do everything you can to pay that, which means sacrificing, other things
Yeah.
within your lifestyle and that sort of thing, which is why it's really important that people do kind of understand their broader financial goals and not just being able to
Yeah.
afford the mortgage.
100%.
And so you and your husband, you said it was his second time purchasing.
Yeah.
How did you guys kind of work out what to contribute? What's that kind of financial relationship look like?
Um, it just came down because he still had the other property at the time. And we all know what happened with the interest rates in the last couple of years. So his rent wasn't covering the mortgage. So he was putting a lot of capital back into that investment property and only what he could in this. So I was carrying the mortgage when, a year and a half ago when it was insanely high compared to what we're paying now. I think it's like 2% off. Yeah, 2% off what we originally got it for and then what it is now our interest rate. So it makes a great difference. So that was number one hurdle, was he had to look after another investment based on the environment in which we were working in. What we got dished. So now we're here to sell it. And unfortunately, I think he sold it just under what he bought it for. And if you go
Mhm.
through, I guess if you crunch the numbers, I always say to him, like, when you get investments or you buy something, it's not only what you bought it for and what you sell it for. You've also got to take into consideration all the interest that you've paid as well. And a
The
lot of
interest, the maintenance, like any of,
yeah.
yeah,
And a lot of people actually don't think, like, actually, how much interest have you paid in this? And have you actually made money, even though you've sold it for more than what you bought it? And I get
yeah,
it, there's like, you could have paid rent and blah, blah, blah. But with the interest rates and what they have been, your rent is never going to be that much, right? So you've got to think about that.
yeah,
So we made the decision, like, we've got to let it go. It was just chewing into the cash flow. And so he's let that go. He's been able to now contribute more to not only like the mortgage, but the household and stuff. We've split it. So I pay the mortgage, essentially all the mortgage, and he pays everything else. Rates, food, what else is there? Power, water, everything.
yeah.
Bins, you name it. Like the maintenance and the living like day to day, he's got that all covered. And then I've got the mortgage.
Okay, that's interesting. How did you come to that decision? You just kind of had a conversation. You're like, how should we do this?
I think it also comes down to like who's the main breadwinner and like
Yeah,
what sits as the highest monetary responsibility. and can cover that. Like me being self-employed, and being the main breadwinner, I've got levers that I can pull, and you know, pay chunks off of the mortgage and cover the mortgage much easier. And like with him being on a standard salary, you know what you're getting every single month. It's easier for him to just work off a budget
Yeah.
and stick to that, where I can be a bit more flexible. And we haven't combined our finances or anything. Like, I don't know, it's 2025. We both work. Do we have to? Like, it's a very, like, I find it's like my mum and dad did, but my mum didn't work. And it's a very traditional thing. There's nothing wrong if you do. I just
Yeah.
think we're just different. And yeah, that's how it's about.
I find it so fascinating because there's so many different ways that you can cut it, and, like, my friends do it in different ways, and
Yeah.
yeah, and, like, there's people that they track it all in the same account and then they pay themselves out of budget, but people are earning different salaries or, like, yeah, the self-employed thing changes the whole game as well,
Yeah.
but I mean, you probably met your partner, I guess, later in the piece from my understanding as well, like, but when you're early on as well,
Oh, it's
yes,
very
it can.
different. Like if he was like
Yeah,
my high school sweetheart, 1,000% would be how finances would be together. You know, I would have built my wealth and fortune with the business and stuff alongside him. So it would have been
yeah,
very much,
we did it together kind
yeah,
of.
we did it
Yeah,
together, where I was deep into developing the business and where we were when we met. You know, I didn't meet him into my 30s, you know,
yeah,
so I was, and I'm very protective too, like the hard work that I've done, you know, so it's like we don't have a prenup or anything like that. So it's the fact that I trust him 100%, but I just like my independence and
yeah.
everything that I've built. So we've kept that separate, and we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the other thing is he didn't have to ride the lows of that early stage either.
No,
And
but
that's
he's definitely ridden some freaking lows, especially in that, like the start. And I've spoken about it. Like I just met him, and I went away to go film a TV show, and I didn't realize I was going to be gone for so long. And I came back to the business being at the brink of bankruptcy. And so
oh, really?
yeah, so he had to. And I remember saying to him, because we weren't dating then, but he was deep into getting to know me then as like a friend. I remember saying to him, like, I can't date you. Like, I have nothing to give you. Like, I am dedicated to salvaging this business and my reputation. And he was like, I
How
don't,
old were you?
I was 32.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was like, I don't want anything from you. I just want you. And like, and so he would sit in the garage because I was still trading out of my garage. He would sit with me to the early morning, like me just sitting there working, and he'd just keep me company. So he definitely was there for me at that point, but not like the start stages of the business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a ride definitely moving
Yeah.
into the business. And I'm keen to actually dive into that with you today. So moving away from property for a second, ed&i is obviously a very strong and confident brand now. So congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
But yeah, what have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned as a founder, I guess?
Um, oh my word. I think maybe I need to write a book on this, and I've actually taken a moment to like sit down. I think the thing, like, what I've learned, and it's coming up now a decade, 10 years in which I've done this whole self-employed, I started this in 2016. So we really are coming up to a decade of hustle, is the environment in which you trade is never stable. You need to be willing to be agile, pivot, learn quickly. I've also learned that you cannot determine whether you are a business that becomes a brand. Your community does and your customers do. So you need to develop a brand in which can be relatable to an audience that will sustain your growth and where you're going. They need to believe in you and what you do, and your messaging, your marketing, your representation, your everything needs to be aligned with your community. At the end of the day, they are what matter, and they will keep you in business or not.
Mm,
Um, I've learned that you have to very quickly become, I don't know, like numb to no's and downs and all that. It's just about being extremely resilient. It's relentless. You will lose your passion. I've always, I started with a passion. That will
Yeah.
probably die down when the fat reality smacks you in the face of what it takes to have a business and run a business, and the highs and lows that come with that. I've also learned that you will have I'm a mum now, and I love being a mum, but having a business has still taught me more of who I am and what I'm actually able to achieve and accomplish more so than my journey as being a mother.
Mm.
And it's because I've really lived it, for a decade now. Ask me about motherhood in a decade in and tell me if that's given me more growth. But
Yeah.
um
Your identity is attached to, this experience.
yeah, it still very much is. It's my firstborn. It still plays a pivotal part in who I am, my identity. And I think after I had baby too, I lost a lot of confidence. Not only as a businesswoman, but as a woman in general, like who I am. Like I've always found myself being a very confident woman, but I've had to reestablish like who I am and who I represent and gain that confidence back within my abilities. So that's also been a real journey, like becoming a mother while you're running a business. And I think a lot of other women out there who do have businesses will know exactly what I'm talking about. You do get lost. You think you're not relevant anymore. You can't keep up with the ever-changing economic landscape of social media and what's cool and what's not cool and what's trending and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And it's like I've learned also in that sense to really stay true to your ethos of the brand and how you like to communicate, and how you want your message to land with your community. I think there's always going to be
Can
trends, there's always going to be stuff, but some things will never change, and it comes down to the tradition of the business in some
Yeah,
areas. So
because
I've learned a lot.
yeah, I can see that. I'm like listening into lots of those things, and some of those I'm not on that journey yet. I don't have children myself, and it's a
Yeah.
big kind of thing to take on when you're also running a business. But you obviously lean into personal brand quite a bit. Like, does that mean that the business in that direction, as your personal journey changes, that can evolve, or do you feel like you have to be really conscious of what the community wants as opposed to like your naturally evolving journey?
Ed and I started from a personal insecurity that I had. That was around my skin. I had PCOS. I had really bad acne, right? So there was a big push from my end around what I needed in skincare. Then, not only as the business grew, and like I started now mid-20s, right? So, for example, aging wasn't an issue for me mid-20s, okay? I was like, I just want to have nice skin and, wear a bikini and be confident and not have acne on my chest and my back. So that's where it started. And morning coffee was our first face care product, which has become our holy grail and our top selling product. But that was there because I had acne on my face, and I wanted to target that. 10 years later, my personal need has changed. But the community that was there 10 years ago, believe it or not, are still there. And they've evolved with me. And new customers have joined as they've obviously come across the brand and they've seen the identity of themselves within the brand and they can see what we're trying to achieve. And at the end of the day, I always say people don't relate to businesses, they relate to people. And now, not only with myself, which I've been a founder-led brand since day one, right?
Yeah,
You,
you're literally the OG
yeah,
founder-led brand.
I'm talking like, and that was never chat. There was never chat back then about being a founder. And in
Yeah.
fact, it was the opposite. It was like, oh no, it's a downfall if you're a founder brand because then you have to rely on the founder. Well, you have to look at the likes of Rhodes or, the Selena Gomez brand. Like they are all founder led, right?
Yeah.
Now they say you can't really have a cut through business or create cut through unless you've got somebody that can lead the way that they can relate to and not just have this cold business. So I've always believed that there's got to be a face off. And I've kind of just stuck with that. And I'm not planning to go anywhere. People ask can the business run without you? 100%. We've set up the business, especially after that moment where I was nearly bankrupt and I really realized that there was a lot focusing on me. I look at that as an absolute blessing. Like if I didn't go through that big smack in the face reality, I wouldn't have rebuilt the foundations of the business that was sustainable. That is what the business needed. So now if I disappear, I'll go on holiday or I take leave or I'm not on my socials for a few days, it doesn't affect the day-to-day or the sales or anything like that. So there's a fine balance. So to answer your question, it's a combination of founder-led and community demand.
Yeah. And then diving into that bankruptcy piece as well, so was it basically you weren't feeding the community over that time and then your sales dropped off
Oh,
and
it was so many. It was combinations of so many. Like, if you look at how the business is set up now, it's all self-sufficient in the sense of advertising, flows on emails, the social calendar. Everything is pre-planned, strategized, running on
optimized?
its own, right? Back then, and now we're talking like 4 years ago, 4 years ago. Um, Still very early stages of when Body launched, because Body launched only in 2019. Prior to that, we were a swimwear label, and it was more of like a side hustle as I was working in banking. But when I went all in, I was fumbling my way through the logistics and the operations of how a business works. If I only knew now what, like then, it would be completely different. But um, I had to rebuild those foundations that was missing.
And then from there, obviously, that gave you some time back as well, like having those systems in place.
Yes, like much better systems in place and knowing where to allocate my resource and time that would get the proper cut through and the requirement within the business.
Going into how this relates to property as well, because I also think this is interesting. Like, there's obviously different things you can be investing in. And at that time, you were very much focused on the business and you didn't buy your house, like your first home, until your 30s, and you already had a bit of wealth at
Mm.
that point. Was that kind of intentional that you needed, cash flow for your business, for example?
Yeah,
Because,
100%. So
yeah,
mid-20s, late 20s, I was still semi in the banking world. Everyone my age, and thank goodness I didn't, because back then when I was in banking, I remember writing loans, and it was when the market was really hot and we were open to overseas investment. I don't remember if about 10 years ago, you remember how the house prices just went like this. And it was
yeah,
like people were buying shitholes for
yeah.
like millions. And I remember writing these loans going, wow, why would you do this? How do you see that as like investment?
Being
But
worth
I
that much.
feel like that was market pressure. And it was
Mm,
like the house values were not because like of, I don't know, how you got peer pressure? It was like market pressure. And people were literally just like, I don't want to miss out. So they were like buying these things that just financially I knew 10 years down the line did not make sense. But I'm like, I'm
yeah,
not going to tell people that. Right? I'm not going to say there, be like, what's wrong with you? Um,
yeah,
but everybody was buying a house. I was in a position to potentially to buy a house because I had saved all the money. Like I was
you're at the
really
bank.
saving a lot
Yeah.
of money, working in finance. Um, and then I started the side hustle because my partner at the time, now business partner, was like, you need to start a business. You need to get out of banking. You need to do your own thing. Like all this red tape and shit, it's just not you. And I knew it wasn't me, but he's like, you need to. So I did it. Somebody told me to do it and I just did it. And I was like, thank goodness that they did. So I made the decision to put all that money. Firstly, I saved up enough money that I could be self-employed and no longer work for the bank for 2 years. So I sort of calculated how much money I needed.
Amazing.
So I was like, this is how much I needed. I did it. I resigned. All the money was gone within 6 months. And I was like,
Oh,
holy shit. It was so confronting. I invested everything. I made some really big business decisions that was, I knew was wrong, but I was vulnerable and I listened to people that I shouldn't have listened to. And that whole thing around your gut? Yeah, listen to it. And I wouldn't have been in that position. So for about 2 years, I didn't pay myself. The business would cover like my essentials to keep a roof over my head. It was like business expenses. But everything else was like, I needed to put everything into this. So when people were investing in houses, I was investing into my business. And I knew that one day it would all pay off, that I'd be able to walk in and go, that's the house I want. That's
yeah,
actually the house I want. Not like some basic, nothing wrong with basic house, people get what they want, but I didn't want that. I wanted a house, home to be
yeah.
what I wanted.
So
Yeah.
your strategy was basically business first, then into property, and you sort of had a much easier ride as a result once you went to go and buy. Like you already
Yes.
kind of had the,
You
you
had the
had enough
money.
money
We had the ability to, offer a little bit more. Like it wasn't like scraping. Like it was like,
or having to compromise too much on,
yeah,
a house that might have issues or challenges and that sort of thing. So it's quite a different experience for you. I mean, to reflect on that, I'm jealous in ways. I was in the bank as well around that time, and I've bought a couple of houses since. And the cash flow impact when our business is earlier stage than yours,
yeah.
that is super challenging. So trying to actually, water all kind
It
of
is hard,
elements.
but I bet you've learned a lot though. You learned a lot
Yeah,
earlier, so
you learn a lot, but you've got a lot of debt to try and manage as well as like keeping the business in a functional space.
it
So
is very
I think,
confronting. Yeah,
yeah, I think there's a lesson there though that if you are going into business, all of these strategies are you know, perfectly adequate. It's just about what's right for you. And in your case, it sounds like it's worked really well to, enable your cash flow, build a business that's doing incredibly well, and then actually purchase the
yeah.
property that you're after. And you've also got some other investments as well. I mean, we love in this podcast talking about people talk about shares versus property and, what's better. We had Vic from The Curve on the other day, and she surprisingly she does actually enjoy all types, but we love talking about that. So, what can you tell us about kind of your other investments
What do
as
I
well?
have? I've got an investment portfolio that's I like to just put it into a very risky fund, and that's been great. It's with Milford, and I think it's like 15% this year, which has been
Cool.
really good. So it just sort of sits there, does its thing. I've then got commodities like silver and gold, like physical, which is fun. You can actually hold something that you've invested in,
Yeah.
which has been doing really well in terms
To
of
be fair, that's also a house. Like that is kind of why I like property as well, because it is physical and
it's
tangible,
physical.
and you're like, I own that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is really cool too. It's like cool,
Yeah.
so I've got that, and then I've also got probably nah, I won't say too big, but I will say pretty big investment in designer bags. That probably is
Interesting.
about a house deposit, if I can be completely honest. Um, but they've all like the decision when it comes to designer bags is just again how you buy and in what designs you buy. It has to be like if I'm going to spend anything more than $3,000 or $5,000, it has to be a investment that I know.
What I'm hearing is we're going back to that emotional versus investment
Yeah, a little bit.
journey.
Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's actually strategic.
Yeah.
Like the good old Chanel flap, like I've made great returns on the Chanel flap, which has been good because I bought them like, early days in banking when they were still a
Yeah.
reasonable price. I mean, back then you were like, this is insane. But when you
Yeah.
look at it now, it's like, this is insane,
Yeah.
compared to like what it was. So yeah, I've also got, I love my Sharesies account. I have a lot of fun in there, completely down right now because I've been listening to my husband. But that's like more like my fun, that's
Playing around with
playing
what's happening.
around. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
sort of entertain that now and again. Um, yeah. So a little bit of like, I've diversified quite a bit
Yeah.
in that.
Which is great. And I think that's there's another lesson for those in the audience there as well, is like you can't necessarily afford everything all at once. So
No,
you've obviously done really well to now build that portfolio up, but you've gradually stepped things in. Like
I had
the bag,
nothing. Like I had
yeah,
nothing until I was in my early 30s when I
yeah,
started seeing all my hard work start slowly trickling through. Prior to that, yes, I had the savings, but I worked my ass off to get that, in my late teens, early 20s. But I, I had nothing to my name. Like that was it. I just had cash.
yeah,
So from my early 30s, I started making, I had a couple of designer bags, but that's when I just started making the proper investment decision.
Like good decisions
Yeah.
from bags. So you started with bags, went into
More
business.
emotional.
Yeah. Went into business, then into property. Still a little bit emotional as we all are, but
Yeah.
when you're living in it, it's different. And then, now you've got a great kind of portfolio there, which is awesome. I mean, I think myself about that and I'm like, oh yeah, that is really true. Like as much as I'm saying the cash flow thing is it's one of our primary challenges as an early stage company and having a couple of mortgages that I'm managing. Um, it really does. It's like you start that journey, and then if it takes a few years for you to actually see, hey, now I kind of have this portfolio, I have a few assets, they're starting to work for me. But I think, yeah, one of the key takeaways I'll take away from today as well, and this is, it comes up all the time, but is that market, being agile and recognizing that as much as you might have your plan, the market can also shift and change. So you need to be able to be agile and move within that, whether
Mm.
that's with your business or whether that's with your property.
Yeah.
Like you need to know that you can afford the lifestyle, not just the house if interest rates do increase. Because I think that's been one of the biggest challenges as these have been
Yeah.
increasing. Thankfully, they're going back down again, but that they do go they do go
They do
against
go
you.
up,
The
honey.
market does.
Everything's
Yeah,
cyclical. The good thing with us though
yeah,
is like we bought when the interest rates were at their highest. So
yeah.
we actually got in there. That was really confronting, and we were like, well, you know what? If we can afford this, all that we can kind of hope that happens. And I think that was like when National got in, was like, we need to fix this and like hopefully it will go down. And we sort of just like hoped in that. So ever since we've had our mortgage, we've only had the experience of it going down. So it's been quite a good journey for us personally since buying the home.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. And I think, yeah, as long as people are aware, the bank's always assessing you as that at that higher
Yeah.
rate, but no Chanel bags if that jumps 2% up beyond what
No,
you're prepared
Chanel
for.
bag, we'll probably have to wait a couple of years.
Yeah. So how many bags do you have in the portfolio now then?
Is it bad to say I don't know? Uh,
I mean, it's telling, I would say.
it's quite a few. There's quite
Okay.
a few investment pieces. There's actually to the point now where I'm happy to like probably let go of a couple because I bought them 10 years ago. So they will double if I sold them
Do
now.
you use them as well? Like,
I do. I'm in the mindset where like if you're going to buy something, use it. There's no point, like obviously I take care of it, but there's no point having something that's sitting in your house like it's a museum. Like, no, that's not
yeah,
worth
yeah,
it. I could also die tomorrow and what, you bought all this and didn't enjoy it. Like,
yeah.
no, live a little, So I don't know. There's definitely a handful there.
Yeah, do you know what? This just reminds me of my friend who actually passed away though. And she had cystic fibrosis. Her name is McKenna. And she went shopping, like she knew she was on her way out, and she just went and bought a whole lot, like spent all her money on designer clothes
Oh my
and
word,
just like
what a queen.
did a fashion show and was like, cool, I'm out. So it's not necessarily the worst idea, if that's what you're into.
I wonder who got all the hand-me-downs.
Yeah, I think she donated them actually.
Beautiful.
But she just tried everything on and good for her. I'm like, I mean, it's the same thing as she had all this money in her account and she's like, well, I can't take it with me. So you're right.
100% enjoy it.
You can't take it with you, but I think that's a good lesson to kind of finish on as well, is like you need to deploy your money. There's no point in just leaving it sitting around. Like 15% on your Milford portfolio, that's amazing. People, if you're looking at a term deposit, people leave their money just in the bank and let the bank make money off it. So
Yeah, I
don't be
think
afraid of,
because
yeah.
I know how the bank works and how they deploy your money in the bank, I'm very much about removing it
Yeah.
and putting it elsewhere.
Through them.
And the Milford's easy. Like if I do need it, you can pull it, but it's working way harder for me being in there. And just to your
True.
point, just to end on like a good point, like you can invest and make great decisions and all that, but at the end of the day, you also want to live. So
Yeah.
I found this balance where, yeah, I'll invest and I'll save and I'll do whatever, but I'll go on that holiday. I'll buy that coffee every day or whatever I want to do that makes me happy. Like I don't want to live my life where it's like with so many restrictions and I just need to build wealth, 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 wealth. It's like, you want to have a balanced life and you want to enjoy your hard work. So I think it's important to find that medium.
Yeah, 100%. Well, before we go, I will ask one final question, but thank you so much for being so open. I've learned a lot and I admire all your success with your business. So
Thank
I'm going
you.
to take some of those threads away and think about how I'm evolving our brand.
Thank you for joining our community. Please leave a Spotify or Apple review so we can support more people into home ownership. Check out today's episode notes for your free home buyers software and to get an estimate of what you could borrow today. A quick reminder, Slice the Podcast does not provide financial advice as we are not taking your personal circumstances into consideration. However, when you join our software platform, we have a team of financial advisors ready to support you free of charge.